Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite two very special guests who came all the way from across the Atlantic to join us this evening. Help me in welcoming Caroline Harding, the CEO of Genetic Disorders UK, and Natalie Douglas, CEO of Healthcare at Home and Global Genes Board of Director.
Thank you all very much. It's a great honour for me to have been invited to speak to you all this evening. When I think about my life, I think of it in two parts. The first part was all about me. I was focused on my education, on my career, and on travelling around the world. And I thought I was really well informed about the things I needed to know in life. But I'm ashamed to say that I knew nothing about genes and I knew nothing about genetic disorders. I had heard of cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia, and muscular dystrophy, but I never really stopped to think about what caused them. My first child, Columbus, was born on a cold January night in London. When we left the labour room, we were settled into a very hot maternity ward with 5 other new mums and their babies. Unlike the other babies who fed and slept, Columbus cried the whole night. The next morning, I was absolutely desperate to get home. My husband arrived at the hospital, and we dressed Columbus up in one of these thick and snug all-in-ones. We took some photos, and we strapped him into the car seat. And then, as we went to leave the ward, the second part of my life began. The nurse, who had been smiling and saying goodbye, looked down at Columbus, and she stopped smiling. She said, "There is something wrong with your baby." And she was right. He was bright red and he was limp. We quickly undressed him while the pediatrician was called, but they couldn't find anything wrong, and slowly Columbus became less red and more active. We stayed in hospital another night, and Columbus seemed better the next day, and so we went home. 8 days later, we were back. This time we were in hospital for 5 days. And then a week later, we were back again. And so the year continued. We called ambulances because Columbus was struggling to breathe, because we found him covered in blood in his cot, because he had such a high temperature he could barely manage to cry. We didn't know which way was up, and my focus now in life was keeping my son alive. And then finally, when Columbus was 13 months old, he was diagnosed with X-linked hypohidrotic ectodermal dysplasia, or HED for short. Boys affected by HED have very little, if any, hair. They have few, if any, teeth, and they produce a thick mucus that, if untreated, solidifies and blocks the nasal passages. They lack tears and saliva, and most significantly, they have no sweat glands. It is estimated that 1 out of 3 boys with HED die before the age of 18 months because they overheat or they suffocate in their sleep. I felt many things on hearing this diagnosis. Disbelief, although I knew in my heart that it explained everything that had happened during the past year. Relief, because now I had a name to give people, and I wasn't some neurotic, overbearing mother. And guilt, because I learned that this disorder had come from me. I also felt incredibly powerless, and so, like many of you in this room, I needed to find something I could do to take back a tiny bit of control. So I contacted the Ectodermal Dysplasia Society, a very small charity in the UK, and I offered to organise a Christmas party to bring together families affected by all types of ectodermal dysplasias from across the UK. It was an absolutely amazing event. Girls and boys, teenagers and adults with no teeth and no hair had an absolute ball. Nobody stared, nobody pointed. Everybody simply accepted how everyone else looked. I could see that many people had got a great deal out of the party, but it never crossed my mind that it could have changed a life. And then the following spring, I got a letter from Diana, the founder of the charity, and she wrote, I wanted to tell you that I spoke today with the mother of a young man with HED who was at the Christmas party. She told me that before the party, her son self-harmed, had no self-confidence, and believed that there was nothing worth living for. At the party, he started speaking with an older man who has a more severe type of ED, is married, has children, and runs a successful business. The two men have since become friends, and his mother told me that the positive transformation in her son is unbelievable. She called to thank me for organizing the party, and so I wanted to pass these thanks on to you. The letter had a profound impact on me. I had never imagined that a Christmas party that cost a few $100s to arrange could give a person hope. And so I decided to look for a job where I could make a difference to more people like that man and like my son. And by chance at that time, a charity called Jeans for Jeans Day was looking for a chief executive. Jeans for Jeans Day is a national fundraising event in the UK. Pupils and employees wear their jeans instead of their uniforms or their suits to school or to work in exchange for just £1 or £2. One day, as I was in the process of evaluating the charity's mission, I took a phone call that marked a turning point for me. It was from a mother who was in tears. I made the mistake of assuming that her child had just been diagnosed with a genetic disorder, but that was not what she was crying about. Her daughter had been diagnosed 8 years earlier. She didn't speak, and as she was getting older, she was becoming aggressive because she was so frustrated that she couldn't communicate. 3 months before the phone call, a company had given this mother a communication aid as part of a pilot scheme. The mother told me that for the first time in her life, she and her daughter had been able to understand each other, and that her daughter's behavior had been transformed. The reason the mother was in tears was at the end of the pilot, the company had taken the communication aid away, and the mother had said that she felt like she lost her daughter all over again. The reason for her call to me was to ask if I could help her raise $350 to buy one of these aids. Imagine just $350 to communicate with your child. And it made me think, like the Christmas party before, the impact of money is not always related to how much is given, but to whom it is given. I felt that the funds raised on Jeans for Jeans Day needed to reach deep into the genetic disorder community. They needed to fund the projects that mattered and make a difference to those affected. And so we launched a grant program inviting applications from all types of genetic disorder charities and support groups, and for all types of projects. We have funded family days, activity weekends, and self-esteem programs for affected teenagers. We have given grants for a horse whispering course for children affected by craniofacial disorders, and we have rented out a swimming pool for a party for children affected by congenital melanocytic nevus, a condition that can cover a significant amount of a child's body with large moles. We have bought wheelchairs, adapted car seats, hoists, sensory equipment, and eye gaze machines. We have paid for websites, films, DVDs, and leaflets to be created, and we have funded specialist nurses, outreach workers, and trainers. The list goes on and on. Since we started the program, we have given over 250 grants. This March, Nicole and her wonderful team at Global Genes helped me organise the first ever UK Genetic Disorders Leadership Symposium in London, where representatives of over 100 disorder-specific charities came together, like you have in this summit, to learn from experts and to share experience. On numerous occasions during the symposium, speakers spontaneously mentioned the difference our grants had made to their organisations, and the impact of all those grants over the years was quite awe-inspiring. The reason that Nicole has asked me to talk to you today about my life and about my organisation is that she has given me the honour of announcing that this evening, Global Genes will launch its own Patient Impact Grant Programme. As in the UK, this programme will fund projects proposed by non-profits and support organisations that touch the lives of those affected by genetic disorders. In the UK, we sell a t-shirt that says, "Where genes change lives," because we know that when we award a grant from the funds raised on Genes for Genes Day, it really does change lives. It is a privilege for me to be here at the beginning of such a life-changing initiative tonight. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you for sharing your story, and I'm very honoured to share the stage with you this evening. My name is Natalie Douglas. I'm CEO of Healthcare at Home and a very proud sponsor of this event this evening. Healthcare at Home is a clinical home care provider supporting patients, and many with rare diseases, who can benefit from receiving some of their healthcare at home. Patients do better at home. It's where they want to be. I'm also very proud to be a board member of Global Genes, having joined after attending the very first Tribute to Champions event. I wanted to support the amazing work that Nicole and her team are doing. Global Genes is an extremely important organisation, totally committed and laser focused on using every available dollar to help impact patients. Every decision always ends with, how will this help patients? How can we develop more opportunities to impact patients? With the launch of the Patient Impact Grant Programme, Global Genes will be able to provide much needed funds to growing patient organisations, helping them be responsible in developing programs that will help their specific disease communities. These grants will be quantifiable and will provide real insights to donors into how we are all helping to support patients affected by rare disease. So I kind of need your help right now. Tonight we need your help to raise a minimum of $150,000. Your donation tonight will directly support our Patient Impact Grant Programme, which launches on October 1. We've already received seed funding through other fundraising efforts to the tune of $60,000, so we're already off to a great start. Please consider a donation of any amount this evening because it will truly help, whatever it is. Every donor will receive reports and updates as to which organisations have been awarded and follow-on reports showcasing the level of impact that the programme will have had on patients. There are so many of you here this evening, I believe over 650 attendees, and we thank you all for coming. It would truly be fantastic if we could achieve 100% participation tonight. Thank you for that enthusiasm. I'm counting on that. So seriously, any contribution at all, any contribution would be so valuable to our work. An example may be that if you've been invited this evening as a guest, you may want to consider paying it forward and providing a donation to the amount of your ticket. But we know that's not possible for everybody, so honestly, whatever you contribute, it will make a tremendous difference. And it will help us truly achieve our goal. What we contribute this evening means that there is more opportunity for more patient organisations to be able to benefit from one of the Patient Impact Grants. Thank you for your consideration. So, how it's going to work. We have volunteers around the room who will be available, can come to your table if you would like to swipe your credit card. We also have donation cards on your table, you may have noticed them, and envelopes as well that you can use for your donation. We're going to give you 10 minutes. And we're not going to time you necessarily, but let's get on with it. We're going to give you about 10 minutes to consider and confirm your gift, and remember, anything will really count. And for those of you who donate, and this is the real clincher, you get to receive a flashing blue bracelet. Now, ladies, I know that's going to appeal to you because we all like a bit of bling, okay? Guys, you need to wear them too. But if you want one of these, we need your dollars, please, okay? So be ready. Please raise your hand to have a volunteer to come to your table to either swipe your credit card or pick up your donation card. From all of us at Global Genes, we thank you so much for joining us tonight. We thank you for all your support. We thank you for being part of this movement to help support families affected by rare disease. And finally, as Caroline said, the impact of money is not how much you give, but to whom it is given. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your evening.